Hey everyone, welcome back to YAML series. In today's video, I'm going to explain all the YAML core concept in just 8 minutes. So in YAML, there are two types of data structures you need to know about. One is array, is known as list, and YAML it is called as sequence. And the other structure is dictionary. In YAML, it is called as mapping. So I will be interchangeably using maps as well as dictionary in this video. Well, first let's understand how the map works in YAML. So it actually associates key value pairs. So we'll have key, colon, then space, then the value, which of course is a convenient way to set up the configuration informations. For example, you might have a configuration file that start with a version and the version number. So let's say v1. So the key and the value can be any data type. So let's say the port number as 9000, where the port number is a key and the 9000 is the integer data type as its corresponding value. So we can also put strings as a key or a value. For example, we want to define an IP address. So I will give as IP ADDR and the value as 10.0.0.1. So over here, there are a few important things to note. First, YAML is a case sensitive. We need to maintain a consistent casing for keys and values. And we can comment out on YAML using hash key, which YAML ignores anything after this key. Then in YAML, string value can be expressed with or without quotes. So now you may be thinking, why do we need a quotes? So this is used when dealing with special characters. For example, let's say message as a key and I'm putting the corresponding value as hello, comma, world, then the exclamation symbol. And we can use double or single quotes. For example, to define a path as a variable, we can update path details in single quotes. So this is another classic example of usage of quotes where we are dealing with a long string and I want to put /n to interpret it correctly. We can put that string in quotes. So in the case of long string, we can also use pipe symbol in YAML to deal with complex strings. So now we have the basic idea how the YAML structures. So let's see how this output look like. For that, we'll write a simple Python code to integrate and read the YAML file we just create. So we'll be using a library called PyYAML, allow us to read and write the complex configuration of YAML files and the YAML data. So let's import the YAML first, and with the standard Python process, we'll open the YAML file. Then we'll use YAML safe load function to call the file to read the data. Then we'll print the output using the print function. So that's a simple Python code to read YAML file. Now let's execute this code. Here we can see that Python interprets this data as a dictionary element, where we can see the curly braces at the beginning and the end of the output. To see this better, let's import the ppprint and print it. So let's also keep the YAML raw data and the YAML output side by side for the comparison. So what we see here that we have the key elements and its corresponding value exactly what we put on the YAML file. Now if we want to pull only the key value, then we can use for loop in Python and pull only the key and values separately. Now besides strings and the numbers, YAML gives few options to represent the Boolean values either true or false. For example, we want to give a key as eStatus with a Boolean value as true. It's pretty straightforward way to denote true in Boolean in YAML. So interestingly, YAML allows us to use on and off as equivalent to true and false. For example, we can express the preference like YAML is cool as on and JSON is cool as off. And if you prefer more human readable touch, YAML lets you use yes and no instead of true and false. So is_enabled as yes and is_disabled as no. Now let's take our YAML code from earlier and comment it out and run the Boolean data from our Python script. So here you will notice something interesting. Python interprets the Boolean value as true and false for all the keys regardless whether we use on and off or yes or no in YAML. And this makes YAML more natural and human readable. So far we have covered writing maps in YAML, which is essentially a grouping of key value pairs. Now let's shift our focus to another important YAML concept, the list, which is often called as sequence in YAML world. So lists in YAML are the way to represent the ordered sequence of elements. So before we dive into writing a list elements, let's talk about organizing and formatting our YAML file. So one handy tool in YAML is the triple hyphen. It serves as a separator between two documents, helping us to keep things neat and organized. So let's see this in action. We'll start a new set of data by commenting out the existing one. Call it as YAML map examples. So at the end of the sets, we'll use 3 hyphen to signify the end of the first document. So now let's understand how to write the YAML list elements. So at the simplest level, a YAML list is a sequence of items, and each item is preceded with hyphen and a space. For example, here we have a couple of fruits as a list items. So we'll start with a space. We can have a single or double space as long as we maintain the same order. Then type hyphen, then the item name. Here we'll put an apple as the first element. Then we can put the second element as orange, then banana. Now let's run this YAML from the Python code. So here you can see that we have a square bracket at the beginning and the end of the output, which represent the list in Python. And each item is separated with commas. And if you want to pull a specific item from the list, you can use a standard Python function using indexing. So here we want to get the output of the second item. We can mention the index as 1, which display the result as orange. Alright, so another use case for representing the list element is inside a dictionary. So we'll have the key and its corresponding value as a list elements. So you can see these scenarios when we want to have multiple values. So in this example, we want to have a dictionary element created for a group of devices. So we'll start with the host name of the device. Then we got a couple of IP address in that device. And we can use a list and put them using the indentation. So it's like a key colon, then the value section start with the space, then the value with hyphen at the beginning. So in this way, we can have multiple values in a single key. One thing to note here is that YAML is not designed to use tab, so it's always recommended to use space key. So let's run this code. Here we can see all the elements are inside the dictionary, and we see the host name as a key, then the IP address inside a list with a square bracket. So how do we access the element here? So here we can use the same Python function with first give the key name in the square bracket, then which list items you want to pull. So if you want to pull a 0th one, then probably you can give 0, then it will pull the first IP address from that list. And if you go back to the YAML data, this style of representation is called block style. We can also represent in a different format. It looks like an actual output, and this is called flow mode or compressed mode. We can use both mode, but I feel block mode make it more readable. So that's pretty much I want to include in this video. If you like to enhance your knowledge, I'll be releasing another video with more advanced use case with the nesting features like a dictionary inside a dictionary, list inside a dictionary, and dictionary inside a list, and many more advanced stuff. So stay tuned for that, and if you're finding this video helpful, please hit the like button. That will help to reach this video to more people. Thank you very much for watching this video, and we'll see you on the next one.